the same time, this will be also the demo of this app. As I've already explained all the front-end functionality, if you missed that part, go and watch it. Here we will focus more on how the data flow in the app. As I've told you in the previous part that we are going to process data in a JSON file. And what happened when I ran this application for the first time, we want this app to call this function init app function when all the HTML elements that why we attach an event listener which will check this app will be called or will be executed after all the HTML elements have been loaded. So you will see it. I just run this app. See start npm start. So here you can see uh, the app. What this function does, first of all, I check if this window dot to do API exists. If yes, the statement will be executed. And inside, I try to load data from window dot to do API. And I call this method load to do, which I create inside the preload.js. You can see here, I create this method inside the preload.js. You can see it here. We have here the name of our API to do API. Then you can see it here, and window, because this is the global object. Then Electron.js attached this API to window. Then here I have the possibility to call this method which I've already created in the preload.js. And you can see here we call this to-dos colon load. And this because we want to communicate with the main process. And you know that in Electron, we prevent the renderer actually to communicate directly with the main process. The only way it can communicate with the main process is through this preload.js. And here you can see we call this load to-dos, loads, and to-dos colon load. And this because here it use IPC render dot invoke, which want to communicate, have the possibility through IPC or interprocess communication to communicate with the main process. And this handle, we already created it in this main.js. You can see it here. We already create to-dos to-dos colon save. No, this one is for saving, and this one is for to load the to-dos. And you can see here in a preload, where is the preload actually? Here, the preload, we have to-dos colon load, and here we create that handle to-dos. We use IPC main dot handle to-dos colon load. And what this handle does, it just try to execute the save. No, it just try to, here is for save. This one is just try to read to-dos from a file. It try to execute this. It will return the result of this read to-dos from a file. And you can see it here. This method try to read to-dos from file. This method try to read to-dos from a file, from a JSON file, as we created it here. And if there is nothing in the file, it will just return an empty array. We check here if it is an array, we return an array, but if it is there is no an array, it will just return an empty array. That's why you can see here for the first time when we execute this app, we get nothing because the main process check and there is nothing in the array, or there is no an array for the first time, so it will return an empty array to the preload, and preload also will also pass it to the renderer, and the renderer will save the result in a to-dos, and it will re-render again. But in that case, there is nothing because we don't have, we didn't have something in our JSON file. But here you can see if I put some, just put something to show you how it will behaves. It will behave. And I just put just for showing even two elements. You know, now we have normally we have two to-dos, even though they have no to-do, it's just number, because I want just to show you what happened. We have these two number in our JSON file, but if I close for the first time, main process return an empty array as we specify it, because we didn't have anything, or it was our first time to run this app. We didn't have anything in our in our in our in our main process, or we didn't have any to-dos. It will return, it returns an empty array. But now we have these two number. I'll just try to close this app, then when I'll run it again, you will see this time we'll get these two numbers. That means we persist our data in a JSON file. So you can see here, just close this up, then you just do npm start. When I press enter, you can see, yes, we have these two numbers. That means it go in our JSON file here in the main process, it check if it is an array, it will take that array. If there is, here we have a path where the file, the JSON file is located, and UTF I've already explained, because we want to get a readable JavaScript. And if it's that, it will return a JSON data here, and we convert that JSON data using JSON.parse, and we save it here. Then here we want to return, then we check if it is an array, we return that array. If there is no an array, it will return an empty array. And it will be passed to preload, then preload will pass it to, when we tap into this API, we call this method, those will be saved here. Then when we rerun there again, I'll show you, as you already have this variable in the render, it will render all the data, all the to-dos we have in our to-do array. I think that you get the point. Yes, now I want to explain the add btn, or the add functionality when we want to add a to-do to a list or an array. So I will not explain all this because I've already explained it in the first part where I explain all the front-end functionality. Now we want to focus more on Electron side of things, or how Electron will try to save this to-dos to a file. And as you know, when I just show you, when you enter something here, for example, a 1,000. So here we add data to our to-do. So what happened is that we take the area what we we enter here in a task test. Then we create an object with an ID, try to give this task an ID. Then we have as I told you, you can see here, uh, they are showing that this is an array. We are trying to, we save this task to this array. This unchief method try to save it as a first element, not the last. Push will push it as the last, but unshift as the first. And we unshift it, we to our arrays, to our array to do's. Then we take that to do's. Here you can see we check again window dot to do API. Then we'll take that entire array to do's. We'll try to save it in our JSON file. And for that inside, we are using async await, of course. Just do await window dot to do API dot save to do's. We are using this window dot API to tap to we call the save to do's. And the save to do's is a method which we create in our preload. You can see here is an arrow function we create here in our preload. So you can see here to do's, and we pass the to do's, and the to do's is just the array what we have in our front end. We pass it to this preload. And what happened here, it follow the same process, is that we already have an handle in our main process. This to do's colon save is a handle what we already create in our main process. Here you can see we have a to do's colon save, and here we have an async again, async function, and underscore event. This event electron return it automatically, but will not use it. And we pass the to do's, and here we check if it is an array. If it's not, we'll return false. But if it is an array, we'll take that array, we await save to do's to file, then we pass in the parentheses the to do's. And here we just try to see this method. You can see what this method or this function does. It will try to write this using the write file. We pass the first argument is the path. We pass the path where this the file is located, and we will be overwriting the existing file, so to have the data that we add in our to-dos. Then here, the second argument is JSON dot stringify, and the stringify is a method which convert the arrays to JSON data. And the last argument is UTF, because we don't want to have buffer, we want to have a readable JSON. I think that how things work with Electron. So I'll try to repeat again, to explain again. First of all, we are in our render, we call this window dot to do API that we create in our preload. You can see here we have to do API, and it will be attached to the window object because it's the global object. And here window dot to do APIs save to do's, because we create this function here and we pass our array. And when we pass it here, this save to do's will try to uh, communicate with the main process via IPC render invoke. Is a mechanism that Electron gives us to communicate with the main process. And here, try to communicate with the main process, and it will pass the the array to the main process, and the main process will we have an handle, this handle, which will try to save this array to a JSON file. I think that is clear for you. You get the idea of how data flow, how data flows in an Electron app. And in the delete btn, first of all, try to delete this. Then now our list is empty. So what happened is, first of all, we try to get the ID from a data set. Then we store it here in this variable, this constant variable. Then we try to get to find the task which has this this ID. Then after that, we return the index of the task. Here, this variable, this constant variable, will have the index of the task which adds this ID. We try to use the find index method of JavaScript. Then we check this ID. If the task index is equal to -1, then we return. Otherwise, we'll try to delete using the splice method of JavaScript to delete the task which has this ID and 1, because we are going to delete only one element. And after deleting the task, then what we do is we take the entire array, and through the same process, we check first of all window.doAPI, then we try to save again the to-dos. And if you understand, we are using only two methods. The first method is for reading, and the second method is only save, because what is different with a file and database? For database, for example, when we do it, we'll have for each operation its method. But here we have only one function, because with a file we are like storing, we are just overwriting the existing one with the new file. After deleting, then we take again the entire file, or we take the same part where the file was located, we overwrite it with this new one. I think that you understand. I don't know if I should show you again how the process goes, because we are using the same function what we have we create in our preload. I show you for read from file, and for saving or adding a task to a to-do. You can see here we have this save to do is an arrow function which will try to communicate with a main.js or a main process. Then it will save this data to a JSON file. Yes, yet now we want to explain the edit functionality. What happens is, when I click here, a modal window pops up. Then I can modify here, for example, just put 400. Then when I save, we'll see uh, it will update to 400. And what happened is, when I click that border, I will pass to the current edit ID. This is uh, the variable which I created in a I create it as a global variable because I want to pass this to the model or to the save functionality. So I pass this ID here, get it. I get the ID from a data set, then I store it in a to-do ID, then I just get the using find method, I just get that task, then I store it in this task variable, then I pass the ID to do ID and the task test to the input here. You can see edit input dot value. So I pass the task test. That why I'll show you. When I press like here, you can see 400 because I've passed that task test to this input. Yeah. Then I go in save functionality. So here inside, when someone will press this save edit, what will happen is we 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 take the edit input dot value, we pass it to the update test, then we trim the white space to both ends. Then if it's empty, we return. Otherwise, we compare the task ID to the uh, current ID. Then we return the task here. Then to this variable. Then after that, we take task.test. We take the edit, the update test. Then we pass it to this variable task test. Then after that, we render and close the model. After doing all these front-end stuff, I've already explained it. What is more important for us is how things get updated to the Electron. Then to the Electron side, what will happen is we check again window.todo API, then we call this save method again. We pass the entire array, these to-dos to this method, which will try in the preload.js to communicate with the main.js, then save it to a file, to a JSON file. And that's how the update also work. I think that you get the idea here. Yeah.